Welcome to Haxby Shed, and something a bit different this time. My daughter's asked me to look at fitting a loft ladder in her house. She's had a couple of quotes already. I think it was £450 for the simplest, up to £1,000 for something a bit more deluxe. Now £1,000 is about $1,200 or 1,200 euros, and sounds like a lot of money to me. So the first thing to do is go around, do a survey, and figure out what type of ladder we could fit, how big is the hatch, all that stuff, how high is the ceiling to the floor, so what's the drop. You get the idea. So let's go and have a look. The first stage is to do a bit of a survey. So we need to measure from the floor to the ceiling to see what the drop is, and we need to measure the size of the opening, and then we need to look up in the loft and see whether or not there's enough room for the ladder to pivot up and in which direction it can pivot. It's not easy to climb and video, so I'll get the camera set up there and then I'll explain. Normally loft ladders would be aluminium in two sections, so we might arrange it so that it pivots on this point here, and it pivots, and then you let it down, and then you let the second section down. Now the thing that we need to keep in mind is how much height we need for this thing to pivot upwards. So I'll just bring the camera around so you can see. So if the ladder was coming down this way, I've measured up from this corner, the corner of the hatch, up to here, and I know that there's 760 millimeters minimum clearance. And when you go to buy a ladder, you can see on the diagram how much clearance it needs. And I suspect there'll be enough to pivot a ladder here, and it will clear this. So we're okay if our ladder's going down to my right. Now, it's probably better for them that the ladder actually came the other way, this way, and down this way. But the problem is there just isn't enough clearance to the roof rafters coming down that way. So looking this way then, the other way, this is where the loft ladder would pivot, and it needs to be clear of this beam, and this distance here between there and there is only about 650. It's not enough. Okay, well I've taken all the measurements that I need to take, and luckily there's no electrical wiring in the way or anything like that. The loft ladder itself would fix to, I'll show you just a minute, whether you've got a two-section ladder or a concertina ladder, they need to fix onto a beam like this. So this is pretty much strong enough as it is. We have the option to put another piece of wood at the back here. I don't think it's going to be necessary. I think this is strong enough. They already have a loft hatch cover which sits on this ledge here. Now we'd need it to sit in here, so we'll have to cut it to size, and then it would pivot down on a couple of hinges, one way or the other, you know, this way or this way, depending on what design we choose and which way the ladder goes. And then we get a strip of wood and we put that around here and that would act as a kind of dust seal, so when the loft hatch is closed it would come up against that strip there from underneath. Now it does make the hatch a bit narrow, but there would be a lot of work to make this hatch wider, and it's really a sort of cost convenience trade-off. But I think if they feel it's wide enough, then that'll be fine. It's the easiest way to do it. After much discussion, they went for the concertina ladder. I think it was about £160 in the end. Sorry viewers, don't you just hate it when somebody says, oh, and then I put the ladder on, oh, and I fitted the loft hatch door. But to be honest, I couldn't video it and the light was all wrong and everything. But here it is, it's on. Well, as I said, it wasn't practical for me to video the work while I was fitting the ladder, but I can talk you through it. So the first thing I did was to cut this hatch cover, which used to sit on here, to the shape of this opening here. And I did that first of all by running a pencil around on the underside, which gave me a mark to cut to. And once it was cut out, I then fitted hinges at this edge here, and so that the door just pivoted downwards. And then I needed to fit a kind of a spring-loaded catch that's sitting behind me here, which is, maybe I'll put a shot of that in a minute. Now, I needed somebody to help me, because when I was fitting this ladder, the first thing we did was to lift it up through the hatch. I was above, my helper was below, and then we shut this hatch door up against these trims that I'd put on here, that I described earlier, saying that I was going to do that. And we then laid this ladder down on top of the door when it was closed. Now, it does warn you, leave the ladder in its closed position while you're working on it. That's it. And it says even when you're drilling these out here, these holes through the backboard, leave the ladder in its closed position. So that means fully up and sticking out across here, because these springs are extremely heavy and you could get yourself into a lot of trouble, but it does make it awkward. Anyway, with the hatch closed, with somebody holding it from underneath, I managed to lay it on, drill a couple of holes in to start with, and then just fix it into position. Now, once I got a couple of screws in, this was secure. We could then open the hatch, bring the ladder down, I could stand on it, then drill the remaining holes through and put additional screws in. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws there, which is probably more than you need. So I think that essentially describes it. It took me about 3 hours or something like that in total, and some of that was because I was messing around. If I was doing this every day, you know, I could possibly get it done in 2.5 or 2. This is the catch at the other end here. It's a spring-loaded clip actually, and there's a male part that just comes up and clips in there when you shut the door. There's no weight on the door when it's in position. The ladder holds its own weight completely separately. Okay, so to put it away, you lift the ladder from the bottom. Very stiff actually when it's new. Like that, and that hooks on there. Then this, with a bit of wood, pushes up there, like that, gets stowed away, and then we just put this up, and we're done, and it's away. Well, I found another use for the ladder, and that's to hold the camera. I hope that was useful to you. Thank you for watching. Hacks be shared.